If you dive around Madeira, you have probably seen or heard about the famous Barracuda. Today I will be talking about this missile of a fish and what makes them so special. Let's dive in. Barracudas are, at least for me, one of the most misunderstood fish. For quite some time I had plenty of opportunities to catch one, but I spare myself to do so just because I heard some stories that either they have ciguatera or they attack the divers, but this is proven to be false throughout my spearfishing time. I guess it's definitely a scary fish, and it didn't help to see it take away Nemo's mother during my childhood. But hopefully I can change your mind with this video. The barracudas, or bicudas as they are called around here, are mainly comprised of two different but very similar species, the European barracuda and the Yellowmouth barracuda. At first glance they look very similar, both have long torpedo shaped bodies and those famous huge teeth. And if you dive around Madeira or Açores, I would say most of your encounters will be with the Yellowmouth barracuda, which you can usually tell apart by its European barracuda relative, by the longer and more pronounced bars on the side that extended beyond the lateral line on its body, and the yellowish tint around the eye and its mouth. The differences are not so big, but definitely the European barracuda are the ones that grow the most, and you can see it on the bigger sizes and heavier as well. The world record for a yellowmouth barracuda while spearfishing does actually come from Açores, but from Paulo Afonso, with an absolute monster that weigh in 11.6 kilos. Spearfishing tips. Barracudas are a predatory fish, and just like any other species on this category, you will have most chances of finding them around dawn and sunset hours, when they will be actively hunting smaller fish. This of course doesn't mean that you can't find them throughout the day. Since they will be feeding off smaller bait fish, it's very common to see them circling around huge balls of bait or just hanging around big pinnacles of rock. The larger specimens seem to hunting more independently from other groups and isolated, while the smaller sized ones tend to group up a little bit more and are often found in very large schools. They are a pelagic species, so they hang around mid-water, but you can usually find them throughout any depth, depending on the spot and on that particular day. Their predatory behavior will definitely spark some curiosity, making them not so shy, but it's easy to spook them if you do not plan your dive properly. I would say the most common way to catch them is falling right on top of the fish. This normally implies that you swim a few meters on the surface with the school and allow them to get used to your presence, and then silently dive on top using their blind spot as cover and landing the shot downwards. The other common method is to wait around the bottom, especially around areas with a lot of bait fish, and their curiosity will eventually lead them to get closer to you. The shot placement is definitely crucial, as barracudas are a very fast and very strong fish, and they will give up some fight after you hurt them. This, combined with their very soft meat and skin, is perfect recipe to have them tearing up and losing your catch. Since they have this torpedo shape, you actually need to be quite precise with your shot, as they will not represent such a big target, especially on the broadside. There is sort of a reputation that barracudas turn to divers when they are hurt, and by no means you should be afraid of catching one if you came across one, but they are in fact quite aggressive, that's for sure. It happened to me already to have one going just absolutely crazy once you grab them, and between avoiding those sharp teeth and trying to grab the fish, you can get hurt, I guess. If you be careful enough and if you dispatch them as soon as possible, it will be just like any other fish. You just need to be careful once you are trying to grab them. Another thing it's that they are pretty curious to things like flashers. I have all the time with me a flasher like this that I can throw if I see a big school of barracudas, and these often will spark some curiosity and they will get closer to the flasher, landing me a better opportunity for a shot. In Madeira, you don't have any specific regulations targeting barracudas besides the general rule of not catching 5 fishes of the same species at any given day. But of course, as a general rule, you should avoid the smaller and younger ones that tend to be at shallower spots. The adult ones will start roughly at around 60 centimeters. Barracudas were definitely for me one of the biggest surprises in the ways that you can cook them. It's a fish with a very soft and very delicate meat, and they are indeed very lean, almost with no real fats, so you need to be kind of careful cooking them as they will get pretty dry. But they have a very mild flavor, which makes them very versatile. My favorite way to do it, it's either with the fillets and covering them in egg wash and breadcrumbs and making a kind of a sauce like a chimichurri or some garlic butter and lemon to compensate for some of the dryness. But they will for sure make a good fish for ceviche as well, and even sashimi, even though for this I will just maybe rather prefer something like an amberjack, which has a little bit more fat. One of the ways I also like to cook them is to cut them into big chunks and add them in a kind of a fish stew or a fish pasta. And barracudas are for me one of the best fishes for this. They hold pretty well on the stew and they give a really nice flavor to the overall sauce. Probably my favorite recipe to do with the fish that I catch. For some time I heard a kind of a myth that barracudas are very dangerous to catch because you will get ciguatera if you eat them, but from what I can see this is false, at least for the species we have here around Madeira and the Azores and the Mediterranean as well. After some research, these myths seem to originate in areas like Mexico and the Caribbean, where indeed barracudas are very well known to have ciguatera, but in Madeira and the Azores they are just like any other fish, and in most studies that I find them, they are not even mentioned in the species most likely to have ciguatera. So yeah, in summary, if you never try it and you really want to catch your first barracuda, I hope one of these tips will help you. It's a great tasting fish and they will definitely provide that adrenaline rush that we are looking for when fishing. And let me know on the comments below what's your best tip to catch one of these fishes. I hope you enjoy and see you on the next video.